As of right now, Miles Garrett was involved in an automobile accident, and he is okay as of right now. Minor injuries. He did have a passenger with him as well. So as at right now, that's all we have. So hopefully everything is okay with him. Hopefully, he will be good to go on Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons. And we got Cleveland Kate with us. Hey, Cleveland Kate, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Hello, Cleveland Kane. I'm sorry. How you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah. So, are you digesting the breaking news about Miles Garrett?
Yeah, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. He must have had his seatbelt on, or it wouldn't have been minor injury since I'm hearing he rolled the car a couple times. So,
Yeah, that's pretty good because if you don't have your seatbelt on, and that is just a testament to wearing seatbelts because I have a background in the insurance industry, and one of the number one killers is actually being ejected from the car. So that's why it's so important that you have your seatbelt on. And apparently, Miles Garrett was wearing that seatbelt, and he was not ejected from the vehicle. No news yet on his back passenger, but hopefully his passenger has minor injuries as well. And Cleveland Kate, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm
how you
good.
been?
I mean, I spent a week in Jamaica, and I suffered through that Browns collapse against the Jets, but we beat Pittsburgh on Thursday. And then the Guardians have just been on a crazy hot streak, cinched the American League Central yesterday. My sister-in-law has already ordered her World Series tickets.
Oh my God.
So they have a season ticket package. They don't have the full season, but a partial one. But girl, I'll tell you, that's a lot of money because you got to buy the wild card round, the divisional round, the championship round, and the World Series, and you got to buy like three, four, like the maximum number of games that could possibly be played. You got to buy those.
And she is buying those? Seriously?
She is, so she had to pay half, and then and since they won the division, they don't have to pay the rest.
Uh-oh, Cleveland Kate might have some technical difficulties going on. Okay, there you go. You're
Yeah,
back.
so she'll get a credit towards her second half payment, but then when she has to pay the rest in full, and then if they don't play as many games, like they sweep a series and only need three games or four games instead of having to go all seven, they'll credit her to next year. It's hilarious to me the way major professional sports um, get your money for season tickets and for playoffs and stuff and hold
Mm-hmm.
on to it as long as they can. And we just go, okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that, she's ready to support the team. They're one of my sneaky picks as well to make it to the World Series. I don't know, how realistic that is, but this could be a team of destiny. You never know. And, they're not playing right now like nobody expects them to win anything. So, I don't really care what they think about the expectations because they have smashed them all to smithereens, and they have a couple of cupcake games coming up. They have 6 in a row coming up against the Kansas City Royals. So, that'll be the opportunity for them to get some rest, for Terry Francona to set his rotation in anticipation of, being in the playoffs. So, first time since 2020, I believe. So I'm super
Well, and the
excited about that.
first time in a long time that I actually believe they can go deep. I didn't believe in the 2020 team. Um, I kind of believed in the 2016 team, but I wasn't really sure. I think this year, these guys they're so young. But what they've done has been incredible. I think we're going to have to enter Tito in the conversation for manager of the year. I don't know how he got this. They're the youngest team since I think like the 96 Mets or something
Mm-hmm.
to clinch a division. So we'll see. But you and I have been talking about it for a couple months now on how much fun this team is to watch and how much fun they're having. They're playing it like they're kids who love the game, which I guess speaks to how young they are because they are kids. And I understand the idea of resting some guys against Kansas City. At the same time, I think you want to go into the playoffs hot. And so I'm hoping they don't do too much. Maybe move a couple people around, maybe play with the rotation a little bit. I can see him giving some guys in the bullpen a few more pitches than he might normally would have instead of pulling them if they struggle a little bit, letting them try to work that out. So, but I don't expect to see a huge difference in how Francona manages this team, even with this easy section of the schedule that we have coming up, because you still need to have that mentality of winning and playing every day and being ready to go. So I'm just looking forward to it. It's nice to watch them, and now they're just kind of, you're at that small little period of time where they're just fun to watch, and there's nothing on the
Hmm.
line because we already clinched. And so you
Hmm.
can just sit back and enjoy it, and it's not all, oh, what if we lose? Nah, so
Hmm.
what if we lose?
Yeah, because for a long time we were, trying to hold off the Twins, hold off the White Sox, and it looks like, the White Sox have just completely collapsed down the stretch. So the Guardians were able to run away with it. They
Yeah.
were able to come off of two road sweeps against the White Sox, which was huge. I wasn't expecting them to go in there and do that. I was like, well, if they were able to take 2 out of 3, I'm happy with that. The Texas Rangers aren't really, the greatest team of all time. So, I was expecting them to possibly go in there and go ahead and sweep them. But, the Guardians have played like, man on fire as of lately. And it's all about getting hot at the right time. The thing is, can they continue to have this sustained success going into the playoffs? Because one of their matchups might be against the Seattle Mariners, and that rotation kind of, kept our bats at bay. So that's one of my concerns, if we possibly might match up with the Seattle Mariners, that starting rotation, that the Cleveland Guardians might struggle to get some hits off of that starting rotation. So that's one of my concerns a little bit, if they go up against the Mariners. And pretty much, I believe the Mariners swept us the second time around when they came to Cleveland. And then I think we might have got a win in Seattle, possibly, when we were there a couple weeks ago.
But for me, I'd rather they face tough competition in the playoffs. I'd rather they face a tough team early and prove how good they are and get that in their heads. If they can beat Seattle in that first round, they're going to be like, bring it, bring it. We're not afraid of anybody. We just took care of Seattle. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So why make me go all the way to the pennant, to the AL championship, then lose? I'd rather just be done in the first round. If they don't have what it takes to beat Seattle, they don't need to be there.
Yeah, because
Uh,
the road only gets tougher from there, because possibly going up against the Houston Astros and the New York Yankees so far, Tristan McKenzie was the only pitcher who was able to beat those teams at this point. So it gets tougher from here on out. So if they can get past Seattle, I believe that they have the opportunity to catch some teams by surprise and catch some teams slipping. And I want to introduce you to Brandy Fairfax. She's our special guest co-host with us today. Cleveland Kate, Brandy Fairfax. Hey, Brandy, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you guys?
hello.
Good. How you doing? We kind of went in reverse a little bit, and we opened up with the Cleveland Guardians clinching the Central Division. What are some of your thoughts about this team going into the playoffs?
So I think, probably a month ago or a few weeks ago, we talked about how they were kind of struggling to get runs in. But I think these past few games, we've seen them put up 10 points. So I think throughout the playoffs, we definitely need to continue to see that, especially against, teams that we're going to be playing. They can put up numbers like that. So they're going to have to do that to compete. But the one good thing I say on the pitching side, Zach Plesac, we know he broke his hand. He did play in Columbus last night, so he should be back on Friday, they're saying. So I think having him back will also be a plus.
And Aaron Savali. So you got Aaron Savali, but he's limited to 5 innings a game. So you go to that bullpen a little bit earlier than you normally would. So Cleveland's bullpen has been one of the best in baseball. So you're going to need them to continue to try to hold up for you. So that's going to be one of the key in the playoffs is that bullpen. So some of the arms they got in there, Nick Sandlin, James Karinchak, Sam Henches, once they go ahead and get in there and start throwing the ball, anything is possible at that point. So I'm liking our chances. And then you have the best closer in baseball. You just got to get them a lead. That's all you got to do. And one of the things that, the Cleveland Guardians have been a team that they know how to come from behind. They don't panic. They put, bat on the ball, and they don't panic when they get in situations when they get down, even when they get down. And one thing is too, if they get up big, they have to continue to be able to hold these leads and don't let teams chip back in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Emmanuel Clase at the All-Star break and the pace he was on as a closer. And, I watched him the other day against the White Sox, it looked a little shaky, loaded up the bases. But when the camera panned on him and you got to his face, he was calm, cool, collected, handled business, got it done, got us out of that ninth and got us the win. So he's just got, his head is in that next level where closers need to be. And it's nice to have somebody on our team that you can be like, listen, if we don't have a lead, we can come back because we've done that. And if we do have a lead, we just throw Class A in there and then we can just sit back and let it happen. And that's a good place to be from a pitching standpoint. But the offense has to keep putting the ball in motion and just getting the bat on the ball and just keep getting those runs in because we've struggled with that at points during this year.
Yeah, Stephen Kwan, I believe he is a player of the week, the American League player of the week. Yesterday he had a grand slam as well. So he is a serious contention for rookie of the year, I believe. He's just been phenomenal and he's played like he's been here before. So, hats off to Stephen Kwan. He's just had an amazing season. Oscar Gonzalez, is right behind him as well. And it's like you can almost always count on Stephen Kwan to do something for you, especially when, that first of the order comes up towards the bottom and, you got somebody on base that Stephen Kwan pretty much can get them a hit and drive them home. So I really like what he's doing, with the bat, but also defensively too, out there in left field. So he's been doing some pretty magical things on the defensive end as well. And I don't know his outs above replacement. I got to look that up, but I believe he probably is one of the better defenders in all of Major League Baseball as well. So what are you guys' thoughts about Stephen Kwan and what he's doing for this team?
So what I like about Kwan is it's not that he's just suddenly come on in the last couple months. He has been consistently hitting and playing defense like this for the entire season. You know what I mean? It's not a fluke. He isn't just, baseball, can be very streaky and you can either get on a roll, whether it's a good roll or a bad roll. And it's hard to get off that slide if you're, or you get that streak going, it's hard to break. And he has just been very consistent all year long. And that's what I like is it's clearly just the talent on this kid and the joy. Again, him and Gonzalez, when they play the SpongeBob song, when he walks up and every, early in the game, it's every kid in the stadiums, and by the 8th inning, you hear that and you're getting a hot dog and you hear that and you go running back. You're like, Oscar's up and everybody gets into it. It's that fun aspect that I think a lot of teams and even maybe older players, they forget about it. So I think one of the benefits to the youth of our team is they're still having fun. And it makes it easier to shake off the losses and be like, all right, we lost. That was yesterday. Let's start over again today. And to have that mentality to just keep the winning going. I think that's awesome.
Brandy?
Yeah, so I think Stephen Kwan can definitely get Rookie of the Year. Like you said, he's definitely been consistent throughout the whole year. He's pretty much averaged like 300 batting. So I think I am excited to see him throughout playoffs, see how he does take the heat as a rookie. But at the same time, this is only his rookie year and he's played so well. So I'm excited to see, in the future, how he just continues to improve.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that he will rise to the occasion. I just think it's something in him. He's risen to the occasion since he's been here and he's been one of the critical players, down the whole season, as Kate said, for this team. So I think definitely he's ready to take his talents to the playoffs. And we got to go ahead and take a break really quickly. You are listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM, and we will be right back.
As the world moves online, what used to be a quick walk or a bus ride away happens over high-speed internet, leaving many disconnected from the things they need. Having access to the online world is more important than ever. With quality home internet, it's easier to connect with jobs, doctors, schools, and resources to help people and communities thrive. Choosing the right internet service and computer can be frustrating and expensive. When you contact a digital navigator, they can help you find plans and devices that work best for you and your budget. They can also direct you to free training and support that can help you stay connected. The bridge to opportunity is digital. Learn more by contacting the digital navigators today at 216-307-6990. That's 216-307-6990. This message is brought to you by WOVU 95.9 FM, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station. Why you want to listen to WOVU 95.9? Hey man, WOVU is that trending station, man. They got the best music in the area. They got the independent artists. They're all over Cleveland. They have something for everyone to listen to. Even the youth can dance to the rhythm of WOVU. Don't be a bum clock. Keep that dial up to WOVU 95.9. The best station in the area. Check it. Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle, WOVU and 95.9 FM. Remember, you can always listen on your regular radio dial at 95.9 FM. You can download the WOVU app so you can take us with you on the go. You can also listen online at WOVU.org. And you always want to call the station. You can reach us at 216-271-0959. I am here with Cleveland Kate and Brandy Fairfax. Ladies, what's up? How y'all doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Super excited to have y'all here with me. And we were just talking a little bit about the Cleveland Guardians. And ladies, what's your predictions? How far do you think that this team can go?
Depending on how they get seeded, what their matchups look like in the playoffs, I think they have the talent to get to the World Series. It's just going to depend on what they run into and how things shake out. If they run into Seattle, if they can get past Seattle, there's nobody else that scares me in either division.
Okay. Even the Yankees, Aaron Judge, don't scare you?
No, don't scare me. I ain't scared. I'm not scared of him. I'm only scared of the Mariners because it feels like they've been in our heads, right? Uh-huh. We have really struggled against them this year. The Yankees don't bother me. There was a period in time when they did. There were a lot of years in this city where you might as well just stay home if you're going to face the Yankees and like forget it. And I don't think we're there anymore. Aaron Judge doesn't scare me.
Yeah, I'm so sick of the Yankees ending our postseason dreams. Brandy, what about you? What are your thoughts?
I think, they're definitely going to have to stay level-headed. Like we struggled against teams like Seattle. So I think facing them, they're definitely going to have to be locked in. And then, competing against the teams like Yankees and the Astros, they're just going to have to make sure, they're able to get runs and they have no little miscues on the defensive side. And I think as long as they do those things, then they will be able to go far and possibly able to go to the World Series.
So this is the kind of team that will really benefit from a manager like Tito. As old as he is, that kind of father figure guy, that guy who's been there, done that, seen it all. They've got enough veterans on the team, guys like Jose, Sandy Alomar is still on the coaching staff. They've got enough of those people that I think will help keep them level-headed and grounded and focused on one game at a time. That I think that's something that not a lot of other teams have that we do. It's another strength for this team. So, like I said, I think Tito's definitely, one of the top contenders for manager of the year, and it'll really depend on how he gets them through this first round of the playoffs. I think they vote like right after that or right before that. Or do they vote when the season ends before the playoffs?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the exact date.
Yeah. But I mean, the fact that we clinched should be enough to get him over the top. And as early as we have.
Yeah, so. I think that he will be probably manager of the year as well. And, you have to look at also what, this team has done. They haven't really had any significant injuries, but, you losing Zach Plesac, losing
some
Aaron
wood. You jinx us. I got to find some wood to knock on.
Huh?
Don't jinx us. Don't say things like we haven't had any significant injuries.
Yeah, I know.
Plesac broke his hand. You had a pitcher broke his hand. Hedges was hurt. We've had enough injuries. We've had other years where they've just been decimated. So,
Zach Plesac is a knucklehead and only got hurt because of his own, doing. So that's
was he flying a drone?
No.
Then was he doing wheelies on his motorcycle in the parking lot at an IHOP?
No, Kellen Winslow.
Thank you. We've had some boneheaded injuries on players in this town. I'm cutting Zach some slack.
Yeah, but taking off a shirt aggressively. Remember that one?
I still don't know how you aggressively take off your own shirt.
Yeah, I don't know either. So, if you want to put Zach Plesac in some bubble wrap or something like that, because he's been a great pitcher. His story is no run support, but he's a knucklehead and he has to knock it off. So we desperately need his arm to help us get through the playoffs as well. And I just Googled potential matchups, and right now we are treading towards the Seattle Mariners as being our matchup partners for the playoffs.
Fine.
So
Bring them.
yeah, I'm
Don't be
ready.
afraid.
Or we're gonna play Tampa Bay Rays or probably the Blue Jays.
Yeah. You want to be the best? What do you got to do, Rachel?
Oh, we still got to play the Rays. I forgot about that.
Yeah. You got to beat the best. So bring it. We can't
We
be
got the
afraid of
Rays.
them.
We got the Rays, right? And then we got Kansas City, right? I forgot all about the Rays.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we could be playing them too.
Okay, yeah. Oh, okay. I forgot all about them. So, okay, I ain't really worried about the
That
Rays.
makes it an interesting. In my head, that makes Tito's job very interesting. Is what do you do with your lineup, and how much attention do you pay to this series if this could be also your first round opponent in the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Do you
Yeah.
try something different now and then go back to what was working? If it doesn't work, do you mix things up? Do you not mix things up? They're going to probably be doing the same kind of thing. So it'll make it interesting to play them. So, to play them next week and then to play them, or this week and then to play them again in the playoffs in a couple
say you
weeks.
sit everybody.
I'm just excited we had baseball in October so that I don't have to just talk about the Browns, although I feel better about them after last Thursday. But after the Jets game, I just wanted to forget about them until after baseball season was over.
No.
And then I'm counting down until Cavs season starts because their off-season moves have been insane. I cannot wait to watch basketball this year.
Yeah, media day was today, and they start practice tomorrow. So it will be right here around the corner where you have the October clash, and November clash, where you have all three teams playing at once. So that kind of gets my juices going, and I'm super excited about that. But yeah, the Cavs have had some great offseason moves, and they're going to be the subject of a lot of our talks going forward. But let's go ahead and transition over to football. So Cleveland K, we didn't get a chance to talk to you because you were in Jamaica. Were you in Jamaica when they lost to the Jets?
It was the day we got home.
Okay.
It was the day we got home, and it was epic.
Uh-huh.
It was the reason why people say things like same old Browns. It was the reason why my stomach hurt with 2 minutes left and a 6-point lead on Thursday. Even though we completely owned the Steelers, I never felt it's the reason why no Browns fan ever feels comfortable until the clock says all zeros. In the National Football League, there were 2,230 some consecutive games played where a team with a double-digit win at the 2-minute warning won. And that streak started after the November 9th, 2001 game in which the Cleveland Browns blew a 12-point lead with 2 minutes left to the Chicago Bears, forcing overtime, and the Bears won. And that was the last time a team with a double-digit lead and 2 minutes left lost a game. And it's got to be frustrating especially if you're an offensive player. You give the ball to your defense with 2 minutes left. You don't touch the ball again, right? Because the defense let them score a touchdown, and then there was an offsides kick, and then they scored another touchdown. Our offense never had a chance to get on the field and do anything. And when we kicked that onside kick Thursday, I'm just like, no, I can't watch. I can't watch. Thank God it got knocked out of bounds, so it didn't become a thing. But it was just the most Cleveland thing to do. And it really, that whole weekend, every team in our division lost. The Ravens lost to the Dolphins. And when the Dolphins came back, Tua had a 136 QBR, which is amazing. And then Lamar had a 149, even though they lost. But to see the Ravens lose in that fashion, my thought was both of those games, the Browns versus the Jets, and that Ravens loss to Miami, letting them come back like that, those are losses that could haunt a team at the end of the year. When you're one game away and you miss the playoffs, those are the games that both the Ravens and the Browns would look at and say, and that's the reason why I'm not getting to the playoffs. That's that kind of game. Now I feel a little better about the Ravens loss because Miami just whooped up on Buffalo yesterday. Miami is a little scary.
Yeah, I think not November 4th, but is it December 4th we play though?
Yeah. Or
week 10.
I'm gonna be in Florida November 30th to like December 7th, and it's not that weekend because I have friends with Miami Dolphins season tickets, and I was looking at the schedule, so it's either the week before or the week after. Because I was thinking, I'm already gonna be in Florida. I can go to the Dolphins Browns game, but it's not that weekend. So maybe it's the 11th.
November 3rd, week 10.
Okay.
Yeah. So that we'll still have Jacoby. I think we get Deshaun back in December. We get
December 4th.
We get him week 13, right? Because he's out for 11, and we have a bye like week 9. So I think week 13 is when he comes back. But I don't know, Jacoby. Look, I felt bad. The thing aside from the loss and how embarrassing it is, and knowing that was all we were going to talk about for the rest of the year, what I felt bad about was I felt bad for Jacoby Brissett. He played a really good game. Week 1 was kind of sketchy, and we were already talking about should Dobbs be coming in. And then in that Jets game, Jacoby looked really good. Looked really good again. And I'm just like, can we give Jacoby a little bit of credit? He's actually looking good at under center. He doesn't look like he's just filling in. He looks like this is his team. And he and Amari Cooper are starting to connect or get me some big fantasy points from Amari Cooper, let me tell you. So, yeah, there's lots of positive things going on right now as they're learning this new offense with these new quarterbacks and figuring out what they're doing. But that's just a couple of them for me, is how well Brissett's looked the last couple of weeks, and just that rhythm and that energy between him and Amari Cooper is looking pretty good as well.
Brandy?
Yeah, I agree. I know a couple weeks ago we talked how Amari Cooper, I think week 1, he had like maybe 10 to 20 yards. So this last game, he had 101 yards. So I think that was something I definitely like to see him finally having a production. He was finally scoring some touchdowns. We got to see what he looked like, as well as, our running back duo. They always looked good. But I think Jacoby did well this week again. And I know the past few weeks, the secondary on defense, they had some troubles. But I think this week they definitely improved it. The communication looked better. They weren't giving up those big plays, those 1 or 2 big plays that they gave up in week 1 or 2. Those cost the game. Those were game-changing plays. But now Anthony Walker will be out for the rest of the season with that torn quad. Him being a captain, also wearing the green dot, I think, they're really going to have to make sure that communication is still going, because now with one of the main communicators out, Jacob Phillips is going to be stepping in. So I think that's one thing they're going to have to make sure.
Yeah, and we're running up against that time, ladies. We got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with some more Cleveland Browns talk, because I really want to address the Jacoby Brissett and also, what's going to happen with our defense now. Now that you got a key player out, so we're going to be right back. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM.
Got the hottest app right now. WOVU streams at 192 kilohertz per second, giving the best sound in the city. WOVU has a new sound coming out right now. The only one in the city, 192 kilohertz per second. Man, it is going down. That's what you're telling me, Siri. Right, DJ Chris Times. You already know what it is. Listen, check our new sound right now. Go to your mobile store, WOVU 95.9 FM, and check it out right now. Tell everybody, we're coming at you. It's the Bell Call Community Radio Station. You already know what it is. As the world moves online, what used to be a quick walk or a bus ride away happens over high-speed internet, leaving many disconnected from the things they need. Having access to an online world is more important than ever. With quality home internet, it is easier to connect with jobs, doctors, schools, and resources that help people and communities thrive. Choosing the right internet service on your computer can be frustrating and expensive. When you contact a digital navigator, they can help you find plans and devices that work best for you and your budget. They can also direct you to free training and support that can help you stay connected. The bridge to opportunity is digital. Learn more by contacting the digital navigators today at 216-307-6990. That's 216-307-6990. This message is brought to you by WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station. Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back to Her and Huddle, WOVU and 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports. I am here with Cleveland Kate and Miss Brandy Fairfax, and we were just talking some Cleveland Browns before we were going into the break. And one of the things is Kate was talking about how great Jacoby Brissett is playing right now. And who would have thought? You know, I would admit that, you know, I dog Jacoby Brissett, and I'm like, but it's Jacoby Brissett. We're not going to be able to win with him. And turns out, you know, right now, the Cleveland Browns should be sitting at 3-0 right now because unfortunately against the Jets, there was a defensive lapse, and that's what happened. And that's why the Cleveland Browns are not sitting at 3-0 right now. But, you know, you got Jacoby Brissett in there. You have Kevin Stefanski, and hats off to him. I've never really been a Kevin Stefanski fan of him calling the plays, but right now he is putting Jacoby Brissett in situations in which Jacoby Brissett can be successful. So hats off to Kevin Stefanski for doing that. You know, he is playing to all of Jacoby Brissett's strengths. Jacoby Brissett is, you know, a pocket passer, and, you know, he's been able to build a special relationship and chemistry with Amari Cooper, and it's been kind of great. Yeah, I was about to say yesterday. I forget we played Thursday night. You know, he, I think he had 10 targets towards David, you know, and Joko, and David caught, I believe, 9 of those targets. So, you know, he had something going on great with them. You know, also, you know, the screen game as well, going on with those running backs, which we knew was going to be something that was going to be very important as well. But just overall, very balanced, you know, play calling from Kevin Stefanski that's putting Jacoby Brissett, you know, in a situation in which he can go out there and win games. And that wasn't something that I had hope and faith in, you know, that the Browns were going to be able to do it. So, you know, I might, you know, owe them some apologies, you know, by the time that, you know, Deshaun Watson, Kate shaking her head saying no. But I didn't have any belief, and I was dogging him, and I'm like, Jacoby Brissett is terrible. And right now, Jacoby Brissett is one of the reasons why this team is winning games right now. So I'm kind of like, I can eat a little bit crow. We still have, you know, a full season left right now, but so far he's looking amazing, kind of, you know, more than what we expected from him.
You know, it's a fair criticism, but here's the reality. We have 2 of the best running backs in the league. And in order for them to be successful, the defenses that you're facing have to be worried about your passing game. If they're not worried about your passing game, they're going to do to you what they do to the Panthers with Christian McCaffrey, and what they do to the Tennessee Titans with Derrick Henry is they're just going to put 8, 9, 10 men in a box and stop your running game. And that's it for your offense. In order for us to be successful, Jacoby has to be able to throw the ball. And it's not just Amari Cooper. It's, to your point, David and Njoku. I mean, at one point, they had both caught everything that came their way. I think Amari didn't get credit for the catch because he stepped out of bounds and then came back in again. But he caught the ball. He didn't have any drops. You know, even DPJ got in. I know you don't like the Michigan boys, but Donovan Peoples-Jones had a catch yesterday. So you absolutely had to have Jacoby be able to throw the ball in order to make those defenses worry about your passing game. And using the screens just makes it that much better, because you give Kareem Hunt a 3-yard head start on his wheels, you throw it to him behind the line and get some steam under him, and he is so hard to bring down. There were a couple times Thursday, we're both just going to say yesterday, there were a couple times both Hunt and Chubb were not, there's, you know, we talk about yards after catch for receivers. I want to know how many yards they're getting after contact, after their first hit, because there are 2, 3 guys, 4 guys on Chubb, and he's dragging them with him and getting 4 more yards. These guys are very difficult to take down, but a lot of that credit goes to the fact that the defenses have to worry about our passing game because Jacoby has been able to pass the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And his quarterback rating hasn't been through the roof, but it's been above 100, which is what you get when you have a balanced offense, when you run the ball as much as we want to. And then that pays off end of third and into the fourth quarter because that defense is so tired from you running and hitting them and going at them constantly. It tires them out. And that's when, you shouldn't have that mess like you had in the Jets game. You should be able to control the clock and seal up those wins like we did against Pittsburgh. We ran plays and kept the ball on the ground. In the last scoring series, where it was 1st and goal, we ran to Hunt, and then we ran to Hunt, and then we ran to Hunt, and then they ran to Chubb and got the touchdown on the 4th down. Like, that's what we want to do in the red zone. And you can do that there because there's not a lot of field to protect, right? You're within the 20. When you're on your own 20, you got to be able to throw the ball to back that defense up so that you can make the run game successful. And so it was absolutely fair for you to criticize him and to be concerned about it because he's been with Buffalo, he's been with Miami, he's been with Indianapolis, he's been with a bunch of different teams, and he's never sustained a starting role because he hasn't been able to sustain this kind of play over time. Maybe now he will. Maybe now, knowing this is his team for, 11 games, and having the number of reps and stuff he had in the preseason, and he's a little older, right? He's got that maturity going on. Maybe that's just what he needed to prove that he can play quarterback in the American football, in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to get used to me, Brandy. She asked me a question. I'll talk for 8 minutes. Jump in, girl.
Yeah, she ain't lying. Go ahead, Brandy.
No, I agree. He's definitely, I think, proving himself. A lot of people doubted him. They didn't know how successful the Browns were going to be. But I think, they definitely, before Deshaun Watson comes back, I think that they will have a record of at least over 500. So I think they're definitely going to be in a good spot with him coming back with only 3 games left and then hopefully heading into playoffs.
You think that they're going to have a record of over 500 when Deshaun Watson come back?
I think they can if they keep up with how they're playing and the defense continues to not have those miscues and give up those big plays. I think they definitely can.
Okay, you shaking your head too.
Absolutely. The question is, if they're below 500, do we go ahead and bring Deshaun back and see what he's got and let him get some reps? If they're above 500 considerably, like if they've got 9 wins or 10 wins, if they're 10-2 when he comes back, do you mess with that or do you just leave Jacoby in? You're only paying him $1 million this year. You know what I mean? This is the cheap year on his contract. Do you mess with that success if they're 9-3, 10-2 when it's time for Deshaun to come back? Because I don't. Personally, I don't put him back in if they're doing that well.
Yeah, that's a quandary that you could have coming up in a couple of months. He's only here on a 1-year deal. So, that chemistry that he's built, with this team, and this has been his team, these are his guys. So, that could be something that, is kind of messed up when Deshaun Watson comes back, if they are, have a winning record and things like that. But after Atlanta, it gets, considerably tough. We haven't seen, the Ravens yet. You got the Chargers coming up. You got Buffalo coming up. You got, Miami coming up. And right now, Miami.
Jacksonville. I'm a lot less afraid of the Chargers after seeing what Jacksonville and Sunshine did to them than I was at the beginning of the season. I'll tell you that.
They beat the Chargers?
Them. Put up, 38 points, I think.
Oh, really?
I'm feeling better about my.
He also has a rib injury, so.
Yeah.
Who has a rib injury, Brandy? I'm sorry.
Justin Herbert. He played through it yesterday, so I think it probably was affecting him a little bit, but I guess we'll see.
We'll see. And ribs are tricky. You feel better, but it doesn't take as much to hurt them a second time or a third time. We'll see what kind of shape he's in when he gets out. I'm just worried about the Falcons. And the Falcons have really struggled in recent years. They've struggled this season. They finally got their first win. They're they're a fourth quarter team. They struggle all game long, and then all of a sudden, third, fourth quarter is when they finally start to get together and figure it out and put points on the board. And that's when our defense has not been at its best. So I'm worried about the Falcons game. On paper, we should just beat them 40-6. But that's why they play the games, right? We've seen too many of these games that we should easily win on paper not go that way. So I'm a little bit scared of the Falcons.
Nah, I wouldn't really necessarily be scared of them too, McKay. Don't be scared at all.
You got to play for all 60 minutes. They cannot let up on them. And I think in this situation, with that Jets loss being as brutal as it was, that it was really a good thing for this team that they played on Thursday, that they only had 4 days to think about it, that they were like, listen, we don't have time. Monday, we're going to watch film and we're going to scream and yell and be embarrassed about what happened on Sunday. But we got to get over it because we got Pittsburgh coming to town in 3 days. And I think it really, because usually I don't like Thursday games. I don't like having to turn around and play that.
Really?
Yeah. I like a Thursday game after a bye week. Like it after a Sunday, especially, God forbid you play it. I've seen teams play at 8:30 on Sunday night and have to turn around and play on Thursday. Don't like that. So, but in this instance, when you're coming off a loss like that and a loss that was your fault, you gave that game away. I think getting right back up on that horse and having to play Thursday and force them to stop thinking about it was really a good thing for them. I don't know if they had 2 more days, if they would have had, if the Pittsburgh game would have turned out the way it did if it had been Sunday.
Maybe. Yeah, because you had them having a team meeting already. Usually that's something that, players only meeting. Usually that's something that, comes a little later in the season, but we're talking 2 games here. So, and we have some finger pointing. You didn't want this team starting to implode already, where it's like, this is 1 game. Okay. Everybody, we're grown men, well, I'm not a man, but, taking accountability for what happened, the defense taking accountability and moving on, having short memory. So I'm kind of glad that this game was the game, and it was against the Pittsburgh Steelers, that they were able to, have a quick turnaround and go ahead and play and have a short memory and move on. And now they have a mini bye. So now they can work on, things that they need to work on. Hopefully the defense, they had a much better performance against, Pittsburgh. So they had something positive to hang their hat on. And now, we're not pointing fingers, but we had a better defensive performance, so we can go from here on that. So, I'm kind of glad that it happened very quickly because it forced them to focus on something else other than, the media-driven narratives and things that, a little bit of animosity towards each other, because it's just too early in the season for all of that.
Did you hear the talk on some of the talk radio stations Friday about how Stefanski's the first Browns head coach to beat the Steelers 3 times since 1999? I wonder, some of them coaches only lasted a year or 2. They only had 4 shots to beat him. It's not like these coaches had 10 chances and couldn't get 3 wins. They weren't here long enough to play him 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that that's a stat I'd be hanging my hat on and basing a whole hour-long talk show on Kevin Stefanski is the best coach ever just because he beat him 3 times.
Right. Very, very true. So we got to take another break, ladies. So we're heading to our 3rd break of the hour. You've been listening to, I was about to say something else. You've been listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We will be right back.
You've been listening to Cleveland Kate talk the whole time and not let anybody else get a word in. We can talk Buckeyes a little bit. What else you want? What else we got left, right?
Careers, finance, entrepreneurship, health, legal issues. We have got your back and then some. So you got to keep it locked. So WOVU 95.9 FM, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is WOVU 95.9. Our voices united. No, it's Merton Bell Park Community Radio. Yes. Is wrapping up, but we have something amazing for you to look forward to this October. The 86th anniversary of the Elite Jewels is happening Sunday, October 23rd at Starlight Baptist Church, and they're bringing out all the special voices that you want to hear. Straight out of Atlanta, South Carolina, we have Dr. Kizzy and the Gospel Highlight. Dora Singers, Reverend Fred Adam Christian Redeemers, Mary Glover and Company, and Reverend Watts and Sons of Harmony. Mrs. Reese's kitchen will be open. Hallelujah. So you can refuel yourself and your praise. Hallelujah. All at the same place, Sunday, October 23rd at Starlight Baptist Church, 14516 Euclid Ave at 6 p.m. For more information, contact Mrs. Reese at 216-510-5591. This message is brought to you by WOBU 95.9 FM, a very Belcar community radio station. Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle, WOVU 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports, and I am here with Cleveland Kate and Brandy Fairfax, and we were talking a little Cleveland Browns. We were talking about them not imploding and coming out and having a good victory against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ladies, was this a must-win game for them?
No. It's way too early in the season for must-win games. It helps the mental boost after that loss against a rival. Absolutely, tons of benefits from something like that. But I don't know that it was a must-win. I mean, in retrospect, I don't know. It would have been rough if we'd have lost and everyone else in the division wins. It would have been rough if we'd have lost and Baker got his first win in Carolina. I mean, the mental implications of a loss would have been brutal, but I struggle with must-win conversations unless you're like in the March Madness basketball game. Those are must-wins. Those are win or go home, right?
Survive in advance.
I struggle with the must-win, but I think mentally, I think losing would have done a lot more damage than winning did. But that's just me. Sorry, I'm trying to take my jacket off. Having hot flashes. So I know you young don't have to deal with it, but I'm old. And I just got a Twitter alert. Hurricane Ian is heading for Florida. And the Miami Dolphins offered the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the use of their stadium to practice this week. They don't get to use their meeting rooms or any of that stuff, but they're going to let them, if they want, they can practice on their field because it's far enough away from where the storms are that they should be okay.
Oh, how nice. That's so cute.
I'm just glad Tampa Bay lost this week. I'm about sick of Tom Brady already.
I'm sick of Aaron Rodgers. I can't say either one, but I didn't want Green Bay to win that game.
It was a weird game. There's a bunch of weird games this weekend.
Yeah, that Denver-San Francisco was a weird one too last night.
Yeah. But that Buckeyes game Saturday night was awesome.
Yeah, tell me about it, man. Right now, look,
before I saw a penalty called in the Purdue game. 2 guys on the field wearing the same jersey number.
What?
Apparently that's penalty. You see it a lot in college. You'll see an offensive player wear the same number as a defensive player. So they're never on the field at the same time. But apparently they called both these guys and put them on one of the special teams plays, both wearing number 21. That's a penalty. I have never, ever seen that actually called in a game before.
Oh, really? Neither have I. I didn't know that they were
really smart enough to not put them on the field at the same time. And they said you can be, and the teams are supposed to have a provisional jersey that one of the guys can throw on if they're supposed to go out for like on special teams or something together. But the team usually prepares for that ahead of time and knows and tells the one dude, listen, if you go out, grab this jersey to throw on top before you go. I just think it's hilarious. I feel like that's a high school thing. I don't know how that's a college thing. Thanks, Purdue.
Did Purdue win their game?
I think so. I switched over to the Ohio State game. I was watching that while I was trying to find the Ohio State game. We had gone to Michigan Saturday to visit some friends, and we're
who goes to Michigan?
Going through the radio stations trying to find it, and it took forever. But we did find it, and it sounded. I hope it looked as good as it sounded. But I love opening up Big Ten play. I loved that Michigan lost to Maryland. I loved that we whomped on Wisconsin because there have been periods of time where Wisconsin gives us a very difficult time. Um, there's some interesting things going on in the Big Ten. Northwestern is not. They lost to what, Miami of Ohio, and Rutgers is looking pretty interesting this year as well. So I'm kind of excited to watch Big Ten play. It feels like this is another year where there's just a huge dump off between Ohio State and, I was going to say, Ohio State and Michigan and the rest of the division. Michigan is probably still better than the vast majority of the Big Ten. Sparty lost. I mean, it was a little rough for some of those teams that I thought would be better this year. But I'm super excited about this Ohio State season. We're number 3. I'm good with being number 3.
Yeah, Ohio State is looking solid. It took forever for Wisconsin to be able to score some points. One of the things that coming into the season was one of the weak spots was our defense, and defense has turned it on. And that game against Wisconsin, it was a blackout. Almost 105,000 people in the shoe on Saturday, and Ohio State was just rolling. I'm like, at this point, I don't know who's going to stop them. DJ Kristaps talks about Michigan might be able to get them again this year, but Michigan did beat Maryland 34-27. So, they barely could escape from Maryland. So we play Rutgers this Saturday, but that's going to be another route. So
Well,
I
it
think.
be, but like when, I know you're up by 31 points or 37, 38 points or whatever, but that's when your defense has got to stay tough, and you can't make let Wisconsin back in the game. You can't let these teams score the way they did. And I know a lot of it was just a mental lapse because we were up by so much. And I'm sure those were the things that Ryan Day was yelling at them about in practice on Monday was, we need to win these games, win them decisively, and you need to not let them get any kind of hope that they're coming back, because that's with the BCS and the rankings and the polls and the way people look at things, they'll pick us apart for little things like that. Even though we still won by 31 points, you can't let them have those easy scores. You
They
got to
better
stay.
not be tripping like that because they barely beat Texas. Alabama barely beat Texas. So,
Right.
Oh, I know, but those voters still think the SEC is better than the Big Ten, and all we
oh,
do is keep showing them every year. Clemson's good, and then they're bad for a few years. LSU's good, and then they're bad for. Alabama is really the only team that's consistently good in that division, and now you've got Ohio State in ours. So I don't mind if Michigan wins. Up until Thanksgiving, they can lose that. That's our turn to win this year. I think
yeah.
I think the loss last year did a lot for the rivalry and did a lot to motivate the Buckeyes to not let that happen this year, which is always good for us, and it's good for the Big Ten. And I'm having a party. Y'all can come.
Oh, you having a party for the Michigan game?
Yeah,
Oh, that'll be fun. I love to join.
come on over, both of you.
What shall we bring?
We do shots of Fireball every time Ohio State scores. We got all kinds of. We'll have chili. We'll barbecue. It'll be good.
Okay, I appreciate that. I love to be there. But yeah, I want Michigan to be undefeated coming into that game so we can have another showdown. And we have them at the shoe this year, so I want them to be undefeated. I think that'd be a great game, and pretty much Michigan sometimes struggles to run through, the Big Ten. But I don't know if Ohio State really is going to get a test other than Michigan because, like I said, Rutgers is nobody, and sometimes Wisconsin plays really well against us, but Wisconsin came in unranked and they just struggled to move the ball against us. A couple points here and there, but right now Ohio State is just a well-oiled machine, and I don't see it stopping CJ Stroud. Right now, him and Bryce Young are in the talks for a Heisman, and right now, CJ Stroud, he had one interception on Saturday, coverage interception, but right now he's just looked amazing.
Yep. Yeah, he's really looked good. I think he's definitely a leading candidate in the Heisman talks. I think he's definitely a top 5 draft pick if he stays healthy and keeps playing this way throughout the whole rest of the year. I got nervous with a 30-point lead when they kept putting him in the fourth quarter. I'm like,
I was thinking that too.
He could sit. I'm like, 30 points is a good lead, Ryan Day. You can let CJ sit a little bit and let your backup quarterback get some reps. But He played until I think the last series, and he didn't get hurt, so we're good. But those things always make me nervous, and you see it in all of the college games, and you see it in some of the NFL games too. Like when you get up by 30 points in the fourth quarter, you need to pull some starters and keep them, especially your quarterback, especially for a team like I think Ohio State is very, very, very dependent on CJ Stroud. And, without him, the rest of the season is shaky no matter who our opponents are. And so you want to definitely keep him fresh and rested and healthy. So I'd be reducing his minutes if we're going to continue to roll through teams like we've been and have some of these leads that we've had. I don't know.
Yeah, Brandy, where are you at?
Yeah, I think the offense has looked so good. I think we had 21 points in the first quarter this past game. And, this whole time the offense has looked so well. And at the same time, they don't have their number one receiver, Jackson.
Mhm.
So I think once he comes back, the offense is going to be able to even put up more points and they're going to look even better. On the defensive side, we have seen them improve as we were worried about them. But I think, they're going to have to continue to keep improving. But I think that besides Michigan, they will also have a test in Penn State. Usually, Penn State the past few years has kind of been a rival. I think they're ranked 11 right now. So I think that's also going to be another test, especially for the defense in those games.
Oh, for sure. I completely agree. Penn State gives us a hard time. Now, they don't have Kenny Pickett this year, but they've still got a lot of talent on that team. Like you said, they're ranked 11th, and I expect them to break the top 10 in the next couple of weeks, and it'll be a very good matchup. I struggle with our scheduling, and I wish they didn't do it like 4 or 5 years out or however far out they do,
Mhm.
because it's so hard when you get to the playoffs when you haven't played anybody. You know what I mean? When you haven't really been tested, when you don't know what that team is going to do against a serious opponent. So I wish we started the season with Big Ten and maybe do the first 6 games against Big Ten opponents, and then all of the big conferences. Like the first 6 weeks are your division, your conference, and then 2 or 3 weeks where SEC plays Big Ten schools or Pac-10 plays, Big Ten or whatever, where you get some matchups with some really good teams to sort of give everyone a mid-season mental check of, hey, are you as good as you think you are? And then finish out. I think would be a lot more interesting than some of these games we get early in the year. And we still play tougher opponents, in my opinion, than Alabama, Clemson, and LSU do. We play way tougher opponents on those games that we book.
Yeah, well, ladies, that's our time. I can't believe it's passed so fast. That hour goes quick. So for Brandy, for Cleveland Kate, for Rachel Hill.
Bye.
Bye, ladies. Good show. I'll talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.